how would you practice hard? Well, I reckon you must have practiced hard to
Yeah,
play.
yeah. I practiced every chance I could possibly practice. I was in there. I used to wake up an hour extra early before school, just so I can get a bit of practice in before leaving the house, and then I'd go to school, and I'd often say I had a guitar lesson, because the way my school did it would you'd have like basically like a 20-minute window. If the guitar teacher was in school, there'd be however many students. They'd each have 20 minutes on their own, or in a class, to go there, have the guitar lesson. Then they'd have to go back to their classes, and I'd leave the classes all the time and just go up to the music room. The music teacher knew me there, and he'd let me just go straight to the back room and just play. So as often what I would do, I'd never, when I first started comprehensive school, I wouldn't. Most of the break times and lunch times, I'd just be in the music room playing guitar, and then I'd finish school.
I didn't start until I was 16. I didn't I didn't do anything when I was at school, full stop, at 16. But I remember, like, there'd be days I'd be practicing from when I woke up until I went to sleep. And I've heard a lot of guitarists, like Steve Vai, he's talked about when he was practicing, he'd be like doing 8 hours at least a day, wouldn't he? Even
well, that's it.
School
I used to follow that practice regime, the Steve Vai one. So it would be I used to do to the letter, really, and I used to I practiced that as often as I could, as well as learning songs, and I'd try and incorporate the guitar into as much sort of school related stuff as I could. So like I played guitar in the school orchestra for quite a while, and just like if we had an assembly, a class assembly or something like that, I'd say, "Oh, we could play the song," and then
right.
just as an excuse to play, really. So, yeah,
it's good, isn't it? So, like, there's another thing. Like, when you practice, say for instance, like my alternate picking is quite bad. It's a bit hit and miss. When I get it right, it's all right. I could probably like record something in me DAW, whatever, and like and I'd have to play it, say, 20 times and then pick out the best one. So I'd probably be a bit nervous if I was to play it live. But so if you were to practice like that from the start, if there's something that you find a bit tricky, because you hear a lot of people say, oh, you need to play it slow and then build up the speed. How would you go about, like, say, practicing something that is a bit tricky and then get
exactly the same
speed?
Yeah, slow it right down, and just try and look for the fluidity of movement. Do you know what I mean? Try not to be so if you were doing something like alternate picking, try and make the movement as minimal as possible. So it would be rather than, say, going from your elbow and bending your whole arm, I tend to just hold your wrist still and move back and forth. But I also try and move my fingers back and forth as well, slightly when I'm playing, because I use really hard plectrums. So like
I've started using hard, like the extra heavy ones now.
Yeah, so the 2 mils.
Right. Oh, 2 mil, blimey.
Yeah, and
like 1.5.
I was using I did start using plectrums from a company called Chicken Picks, and I think it was a 3mm plectrum I was using for a while.
Blimey.
But it honestly didn't feel like a 3mm plectrum. It felt like this, to be honest, but it just glided really nicely across the strings. I don't know what was different, but I've used these ones for as long as I can remember. They last forever, and you can buy them in bulk. So I've got loads of them here. But they're the best if you're going for something like alternate picking and you want to be super precise. You got to feel the string. You got to dig into it a bit. If you've got a really sort of thin plectrum that just sort of flutters over the string, you're not gonna be accurate.
Yeah.
Whereas this, you can really feel the string, dig into it, and be as precise as you want to be. But always be as slow as you can, and just try and execute and be as clean as you can.
Yeah. Right.
The way I would do it, I do a basic. Like a 1, 2, 3, 4 across the strings,
right?
And I'd do that, and then I'd move up a fret and do the same, then move up a fret and do the same, and keep going up as far as the 12th fret. And I wouldn't often go up above that unless I was, feeling a bit spicy. But the 12th, by the time you hit the 12th fret, I only ever practiced that for my picking hand. And if anything was messy, or if I hit the wrong note or caught the wrong string or something, I'd stop and I'd start again, and I'd keep myself doing it until I nailed it every single time.
How long do you think that took?
The more I did it, the less time it took. So it was, it would be.
I've been trying that, like ever since. I still can't. I'm still not confident with it. I don't know whether I'm too impatient with it, and because it's like it's like the same old thing. If you practice something wrong, it's always going to be wrong, isn't it? I wonder if I've been practicing it wrong all these years.
Well, when I was about 13, something like that, I got into Dream Theater, and John Petrucci, and he had an instructional video out. I can't remember what it's called now, but it's back when he had his long hair and he had his old Ibanez Picasso guitar, and that is the ultimate thing to watch and learn from if you want to do alternate picking to a high standard. It's excellent.
Because even legato, because I like the sound of legato as well. I mean, legato's all right, but then I get knackered after, because I want to play something and my fingers just run out of juice after.
If you want the best of both worlds, is to just study Paul Gilbert.
Right.
study Paul Gilbert. He is, but his alternate picking is spot on. His legato is excellent, and he incorporates them both brilliantly. And there's a lot of licks that I use that I've pinched off him, from that they just work. They fit into everything, and they suit my style really well.
Because I heard you do the Dream Theater cover on your channel, which is amazing, like spot on. You're a really well accomplished guitarist. Because like the stuff you play as well. Because I knew that you were doing the Doctor and the Medic stuff, and you told me about the other things, and then you showed me the Toto stuff as well. So bloody hell, because I like Toto as well. Because that's like Steve Lukather is one of my favourites as well.
Yep. That's
he's a fantastic guitar player, isn't he?
And he's a completely different style as well. I mean, it may not sound like it too much, but to try and play like him, or to play one of his solos, you have to think differently when you're playing.
I suppose
it's not as simple as just shredding.
Yeah, because he's a bit of a sort of fusion type player as well, isn't he? You get a sort of fusion influence.
Yeah, and he plays a lot of notes that really you wouldn't think. Like you always try and be one step ahead in your mind where you're going to go next on the guitar.
Yeah.
So at least I try to anyway. When I'm playing, I'm always trying to think where my next note is going to be. But when you're trying to do the Toto stuff and anything by Lukather, it's in your mind you're thinking the next note's going to be, but it's not the note. You've got to think totally differently. Sometimes you just got to let your fingers do whatever they want to do.
Right. Because a lot of this stuff seems to sort of employ quite a lot of sort of chromatic stuff into his bit.
Yeah, he does a lot of little quick chromatic runs, and he's outside of the box a lot of the time as well.